I think Christianity is a joke. I think it's a joke of a religion. If someone were to ask me my religion, I would have to say, if I was to find God, it would have to be via Islam.
And I'm telling you, a man can be head over heels in love. I can love you with all my heart. I can be ready to die for you, take a bullet for you. But I'll still fuck that bitch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I've chosen that clip because I mean, when I first saw that, I was creasing, as most people probably were, most of you who have watched that right now. But I've chosen that clip for a specific reason, as funny and humorous as it is, okay? We fail to acknowledge a point, and that point is as follows. Yes, it is true, men can sleep with multiple women. Generally speaking, a man can sleep with a woman and extricate his emotions from her, although I do believe that in the long run, too much casual sex, not just for women, but for men as well, is detrimental to both sexes, not just women. We know it is for women, but for men as well. But we fail to acknowledge a point here, and that is, we complain about the women who've got high body counts, or who are hopping from marriage to marriage, if you're in the Muslim community. Or if you're not, then you're simply, boyfriend after boyfriend, jumping ship whenever you see a better man coming along. So we complain about those type of women. But then we're okay as men in participating in this problem, if we fit the criteria of the proverbial high value man, by sleeping with those women too. Now, I've heard some content creators make the claim that why are you holding the men responsible for this? The women are just as responsible for wanting to sleep with these type of men in the first place. And I completely agree with you, absolutely. But if we agree that accountability for a woman is kryptonite, which we do, and if we agree that women are emotional and are led by their emotions before logic first, and if we agree that men are the more rational, I should say, of the two sexes, and if we agree that a woman should follow a man's lead, and if we agree that women tend to follow men's lead in general, especially men that they love and respect, then we can't escape from this dark reality that the red pill and otherwise promotes, which is, on the one hand, we complain about women with high body counts, but then on the other hand, we want to reap the benefits of their reckless, irrational, and emotional behavior by sleeping with women left, right, and center. Now, I agree that men of means should have multiple women. In fact, it is unnatural, borderline selfish for a man of means, a man like Andrew Tate, to simply dedicate all of those resources to one woman. I wouldn't even say it's something he should do. I would say it's something he must do. It borders on selfishness for a woman to be with a man of the caliber of Andrew Tate and expect him to be loyal just to her. No. And this is what Islam facilitates. Facilitates this. Firstly and foremostly, Allah mentions in the Quran when he talks about marriage, 2, 3, or 4. And if you fear injustice, then 1. What's the prerogative here? The prerogative here is the natural state of marriage is polygyny. The natural state of man is to be with a minimum of 2 women. That's the natural state. Now, I can't speak for what it feels like to sleep around with women, in the dozens or maybe even in the hundreds on a casual sense, because I've never experienced that. I had wives from very young. Since the age of 16, I've had wives. Multiple wives in my life. So I've never had to experience this, or the opportunity has never presented itself, because I got married so young and I was practicing the religion and I managed to stay away from this haram, alhamdulillah. But I have heard from those who have experienced this, that even from the men, I'm talking about from the men, that sleeping with women with reckless abandon, just because you can, it leaves you with a certain feeling of emptiness. It leaves you with a feeling of emptiness. So on the one hand, we are perpetuating the very problem that we are against. We are against women with high body counts. We are against women sleeping recklessly with one man to the next. But then on the other hand, we are happy to reap those benefits. Now, I've spoken with Andrew on DM a few times over the past few months. It just so happens that we share a number of mutual friends because we both grew up in Luton. In fact, one of his old sparring partners is my sparring partner right now. And I've invited Andrew on the podcast, and I invite him again. I know that it's not a good use of your time, bro, because my channel is so small. I appreciate that completely. But I'm going to be honest with you. And I told him on DM as well. The first few podcasts that Andrew did, they were really interesting, really entertaining, particularly on Fresh and Fit. It was like a breath of fresh air. Now, everyone's asking the same boring-ass questions. The same boring questions. How do you make your money? What's your philosophy on girls? Rah. It's all boring. And Andrew still makes it entertaining because he's such an entertaining character with his answers. But it is getting boring. It's time to have a high IQ conversation, my guy. So I invite you onto the podcast. But before that, before I invite you onto my tiny peon-sized channel, bro. And I want you guys, by the way, to copy and paste the link of this video and send it to him. Don't send it to his main account because that account is reserved just for girls. Send it to his business account, which is Cobra_Tate. All right, this is an open invitation. But before I invite you onto the podcast, I invite you to Islam, my guy. And I'll tell you why. Firstly and foremostly, Allah says in the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ لِتَطْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبِ. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts find rest, peace. There is no true peace and rest without the remembrance of Allah. So I invite you to Islam. Secondly, Allah also says in the Quran, and this brings me back to my initial point of complaining about women with high body counts, but then happy to reap the benefits of those same women who are willing to give their bodies up so easily. Allah says in the Quran, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفَرُونَ بِبَعْضِ فما جزاء من يفعل ذلك منكم إلا خزي في الحياة الدنيا ويوم القيامة يردون إلى أشد العذاب. Do you believe in parts of the book and reject parts of the book? And I ask you this question, Andrew, because from my understandings, you're a Christian. And the prohibition of adultery and fornication in Islam can be also found in Christianity. So whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, the prohibition is the same. Adultery, which is sleeping with a woman outside of marriage as a married person, or fornication, which is also sleeping with a woman outside of holy matrimony of marriage, but you're not married yourself. That's fornication. That's the difference between the two. They are both expressly prohibited in the Quran and in the Bible. So Allah asks in the Quran, do you believe in parts of the book and reject parts of the book? فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ. There is no result or end for those of you who behave like this إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, except a disgrace in the life of this world. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ. And on the day of judgment, he will be sent forth to a painful torment, a painful punishment. You see, we all need fettering. Everyone needs fettering, not just women, men as well. And to fetter, it means to handcuff. That's to fetter. And we all need fettering of some sort. We all need boundaries and restrictions. No, men cannot do whatever they want to do. A man cannot do whatever he wants to do. And I am confused with regards to Andrew's religious orientation, because sometimes he says he's a Christian and then other times he says this.
And I saw in clips as well that you've got understanding and sort of respect for Islam. So
a massive respect for it. I have a massive respect for Islam because they have principles which they refuse to bend on. And we live in a world now where every single principle is being constantly bent and broken. Yeah. And I like to see a fundamental, or I like to see a mental model which is rigid. Yeah. There's nothing left rigid anymore. The law isn't rigid. Christianity isn't rigid. Like, the only thing you can sit there and say they will not bend or they will not break is Islam. So I have absolute respect for them because it's just a masculine imperative. It's just a masculine mindset to have. And as a man, I respect people who say what they mean what they say. Those are the rules. Oh, you don't like it? Tough. And besides Islam, there's not much of that left in the world now. Yeah. Now everything's just bending and breaking and they're just making it up. Yeah. Like, I think Christianity is a joke. I think it's a joke of a religion. If someone were to ask me my religion, I would have to say, if I was to find God, it would have to be via Islam, because how am I going to go to a Christian church when they got gay pastors and shit.
And I find that final statement of his is fascinating. If I was to find God, it would have to be through Islam. So, and I know what the fear with a lot of non-Muslims who are considering becoming a Muslim is. The fear is, man, I'm gonna have to give up a whole bunch of things that I love doing. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's sleeping with women, in abundance. Maybe it's making money through haram means that are not permissible in Islam, such as gambling and so on. And I say to you this: don't worry about all of that. Don't worry about all of that. Just take your testification of faith first, and then the rest will follow. Get the head right, and the rest will follow. Don't worry about the alcohol and the gambling and all the rest. Don't worry about all of that, because the bottom line is this: we're all going to die. We're all going to die. And all of this life will be left behind us. And I will leave or conclude this video with the following verses from the Quran, which I'm not going to translate for you, Andrew. I am not going to translate them for you, but I want you to hear them nonetheless. I want you to feel the impact that they have on your heart. And I'm sure someone's going to translate them in the comments, but I'm not going to translate them for you. I just want you to hear the Arabic. And Allah addresses the Jews and the Christians specifically in Surah Maryam. And He says, وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَلَدًا. And they, the Christians and the Jews, say that Ar-Rahman, the Merciful One, has taken a son. لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتُ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ مِنْهُ وَتَنْشَقُّ الْأَرْضُ وَتَخِرُّ الْجِبَالُ هَدًّا أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا وما ينبغي للرحمن أن يتخذ ولدا.